So, His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami actually hails from New Zealand. But many of you may not know, we consider him to be very much so a South African in every single sense. Often to the extent that we may say he's very part of the fabric of the community in Chatsworth, where he gives a lot of his time and guidance at the Sri Sri Radharanath Temple. He joined the movement in 1973 in London, and a year after, he had met His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada at Auckland University. And I remember once Murad saying that when he had, in his first meeting with Srila Prabhupada, he explained it, this must be what heaven is like. A feeling that many of us can relate to when we are in His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj's association. He has served in many, many positions during his Krishna conscious journey, which includes the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. He's served in positions as temple president on the South African National Council, as well as vice chairman, chairman, and the head of the governing body council. He's the very best in everything he does, from photography to filming to writing to teaching to being a spiritual master and a friend, confidant, and leader to many around the world. So we are very, very honored to have with us today His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami on this most auspicious occasion, and to start off our wonderful program today at ISKCON Midrand. So with that, a very warm welcome. And to welcome Miraj, we're going to do it again. We're going to chant the Maha Mantra together, because there's no better than doing it together. So let's give him a warm welcome to ISKCON Midrand. 1, 2, 3.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, thank you for the warm, hot welcome. It was just, anyway, Haribol. So yes, I'm very happy to be here with you all today. It's Sri Krishna Janmastami, and we've been celebrating. First of all, we were at the temple in Pretoria this morning and had a program there. It was very nice. Now we're here. Next stop is Lenasia, our temple there. Then the following stop will be at Santon, the last stop. That's our program. Yes, as they say, you know what they say? No rest for the wicked. That's me, not my driver. But anyway, yes, we're starting off the program. We're sort of a bit early, but we got to get around everywhere, like I said. Let us begin with a little kirtan. Is there a pair of kartals around? And I noticed harmonium and accordion expert come in just a few minutes ago. Over the back there, can you accompany, please? That's right, yes. I mean, I suppose you could do it from, but no, where's your instrument? It's a Hare Krishna festival, so we should start with a little Hare Krishna. Or actually, Jai Radha Madhava. Yeah. Can I use those? These are yours? Yeah, the thing's too short for my fingers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare. Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava ki. Shri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava ki. Shri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava ki. Go Premanande. Hare Krishna devotees. Yes, again, how nice to be here with you on this most wonderful and glorious occasion here at our beautiful Midrand Center. So we will say a few words for a little while on the subject. You know, it's a big subject. Krishna is a big subject. And his appearance is a very big subject, and different aspects of it, the relevance to us and how we should or can react to it and respond to it, and all these things. These are very, very deep subjects, and actually we can go on for ages and ages, not just a little while, not even the whole evening, but just for ages. But I thought this evening we could discuss a little bit on a very interesting subject. You know, in Bhagavad Gita, right at the end, practically last few verses, Lord Krishna speaks the famous chapter 18, verse 66, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayeshami Mashuchaha. He's telling us, just abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender to me. I'll deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So it's very strong. He's taking a very strong position that we should give up, well, the way Prabhupada translates it is all religious practices, but ultimately what Krishna is saying is we should just give up everything. Just give up everything and give ourselves to the Lord, and give our lives and our possessions and our families and just whatever we have. So a question arises, and it's a good question. And this question is raised by, in a very specific and sort of focused way, by one of our great acharyas, one of our great spiritual teachers, Srila Jiva Goswami. And Jiva Goswami, in one of his writings, he was very, very prolific, but in one of his writings, Sankalpa Kalpadruma, he raises the question, why should we surrender to Krishna? It's a good question, isn't it? Why? Krishna says just do it, but why should we do it? And Srila Jiva Goswami considers a few possible answers to that question. Like, for example, Krishna is very great. He's so far, so much greater than us, we can't begin to calculate. And we're tiny. So it's good, to sort of be on the right side. Take shelter of someone who can look after you. And if anyone can look after us, it's Krishna. Or another thing is that we are by nature servants. He is by nature the master. So that's another good reason to surrender to him. But Jiva Goswami, after considering a few possible alternatives, he concludes that we should surrender to Krishna because Krishna is so kind to his devotees. Krishna is so merciful to his devotees. So therefore we should surrender to him, and we can be happy, we can be successful, we can be protected under all circumstances. Yes, because he's so kind to his devotees. And Srila Jiva Goswami, to develop this point and illustrate this point, he actually quotes a few verses, 5 verses in fact, which are verses describing or mentioning at least certain devotees who he was merciful to. Yes, there's the cowherd boys, Krishna's cowherd boyfriends. Then there's Mother Yashoda, Krishna's mother, at least in terms of the pastimes, how merciful he was to her. The gopis, the young cowherd girls of Vrindavan, he was extremely merciful to them. So these different examples are given, but one example which is very relevant for us, because we are materially conditioned souls living here in this material world and dealing with the challenges of material life. For example, you may be a student. You're a student, aren't you? That's right. And it's exam time for some, or sooner or later it's exam time for all students. And that can be really challenging, to students. You could be a working person, and it's difficult making ends meet. You could be a business person, and people could try to cheat you and steal your goods and not pay for them, different things like this. Yeah. So the example which Srila Jiva Goswami gives, which is very relevant to us as residents of this material world, like the gopis, Mother Yashoda, the cowherd boys, they're not residents of this material world. They're residents of the kingdom of God. They come just to visit from time to time when the Lord comes to accompany him. But it's not like their place, but it is our place. So the example which he gives, which is really good example, it is a person, actually, we use the term demon, an atheist, anti-God person, like extremist, amongst the anti-God people. Putana. Those of you, of course, who are familiar with Krishna consciousness, you would have definitely heard of Putana. She was what in Sanskrit is called Kechari. Kechari, it basically means a witch. Yeah. There's Pishacha, there's Kechari in the Indian traditions. You know, in European traditions, you get the ghosts and hobgoblins, and here in South Africa we have Tikalosh. We hope you don't meet one. If you do, chant Hare Krishna, or maybe chant Nishingadev pranams. But, you know, these are nasty people. And Putana was one such nasty person. She made a living. She was a professional killer of children. I like the current day abortion. Anyway, Haribol. But she would kill them by sucking their blood, literally. Whoa, Hare Krishna. And she came to try to kill Krishna. In fact, she was the first demon who came to try to kill Krishna. There was a whole succession of them. In fact, well, in the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, there's descriptions while Krishna was in Vrindavan as a young person, before he left and became a prince, eventually in Dwaraka. So every day, Lord Krishna, every day, particularly when he was out herding the cows, that period, from like 3 years old, he started herding the calves, right till the time he left and went to Mathura. Yeah, Krishna was herding the cows, and for that whole period, every day, devotees, 2 demons would come. And they'd come at specific times, actually, more or less. One would come plus or minus 1 o'clock and attack Krishna. And Krishna would fight with the demon, and Krishna would kill the demon. And the demigods in the heavens would shower flowers, and the cowherd boys would be just, really excited about it. And every day it happened like that. And when it happened and when the event had finished, it was a standard practice. Everybody knew time for lunch. And they'd stop for lunch. Then later on, like, 4-ish or 5-ish, at some particular time in the late afternoon, another demon would come. And this was 7 days a week for years. And sometimes, right at the beginning, when they first went out in the early morning, a demon would come. So sometimes they get 3 in a day. So, but generally, there'd be another one coming in the later afternoon time, and the same thing. At least Krishna would fight with the demon, kill the demon. Everyone would applaud and just be very happy. And then it was time to go home. And Prabhupada, describing these events in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada makes the point that if the demon had not come to interrupt their otherwise happy boy pastimes around lunchtime, they wouldn't have stopped for lunch. And if the demon hadn't come later in the day, they wouldn't have gone home, because they were just having so much fun with Krishna. And boys will be boys. And what young boy worth his salt or whatever wants to stop playing when mummy calls? You got to eat. No. All right, anyway. But the first demon who came was Putana, who was a witch, Kachari. And Prabhupada gives the description actually in the Krishna books. Kachari is a particular type of witch or, kind of mystical, horrible person. Kacharis, Prabhupada says, fly on broken branches of trees. They fly. And listen to this, particularly if you're Gujarati, and if you're thinking of going back to Gujarat. Prabhupada says there are still existing in remote portions of western and northwestern India, that means Gujarat, if you're not familiar with the geography of India, that there are still Kacharis. So if you go there, just watch out, okay? Otherwise, Kim Cho and Charlie Kure. So Putana came to try to kill Krishna, and she's a witch. She has mystical powers. She transformed herself from, like a really ghastly form, sort of classic witch type of appearance, into a very beautiful young girl. And she came in, and of course it is a long story, but she came in and her breasts were poisoned. She came in and offered and picked up Krishna and just placed him on one of her breasts, and he started sucking her breast milk, and he sucked the poison. But no amount of poison can hurt Krishna because he's God. So he sucked her breast milk, he sucked the poison, and then he sucked out her life. And she died on the spot like that. Yeah, screaming. It was a very spectacular type of exit that she made. So, now what happened to her though? Now she died. So where did she go? Of course, here in Krishna consciousness and Bhagavad Gita and all the Vedic scriptures actually, the principle of reincarnation is just all-pervasive, completely all-pervasive. So she just died. So next life is just coming up right now. So what position did she take next? Well, devotees, believe it or not, she returned to the kingdom of God. Normally, if there's some, horrible person who kills children or just kills people, and then they die in the act of trying to kill some child, they, in terms of reincarnation, they will go to some really, really bad situation, but really bad situation in this material world. But not Putana. She returned to the kingdom of God, and she is there now. And she has the role there. She is like a nanny. She's one of Krishna's nannies in Goloka Vrindavan, in the kingdom of God. And you might ask, it would be another excellent question, How on earth could that be? She's just this absolutely, I mean, it's even hard to express how bad a person she was. Normally she'd get a one-way ticket to hell on a no-return basis. But she went to the kingdom of God, which is the ultimate achievement of human life. How could it be? Well, there's an interesting explanation. Let me just briefly explain. If you're familiar with Srimad Bhagavatam, which I think many of you may not be so much, but in the 8th canto is the story of the appearance of Lord Vamana. He's another of Krishna's avatars. So Lord Vamana, he came in the form of like a 5-year-old child, but a very saintly 5-year-old child, very pure Brahmin, 5-year-old little boy, but really sweet and really saintly. So, you know, and it's another long story, but her, a certain person named Bali Maharaj, who was the king of the demons within the universe, the big demons, who sometimes challenged the demigods. The demons, under the leadership of Bali Maharaj, had taken over the heavenly planets and kicked out Lord Indra. And Bali Maharaj was ruling as Indra, although he's a demon. So anyway, the Lord appeared as Vamana to take the heavenly planets back and give them back to Indra, who was kind of homeless at the time. So Lord Vamana appeared in this form of a little Brahmin boy, just a child. And the daughter of Bali Maharaj saw, she was like a teenage girl, a teenage sort of stage of life, young girl, and she saw this beautiful little boy, very sweet and saintly, and she just spontaneously thought, I would like to have this boy as my son. Then Lord Vamana came and requested from her father, Bali Maharaj, give me as much land as I can cover in 3 of my steps. And again, it's a bit of a long story, but Bali Maharaj agreed. And with the first step, Lord Vamana covered the lower and middle planetary systems of the universe. And then second step, he expanded himself into a gigantic form. He covered the heavenly planets, the higher planets, and that's all there is in the universe. There's just the 3 levels, lower, middle, and upper. So that was it. And the Lord said to Bali Maharaj, you said I could have 3 steps of land. You've only given me 2. You're a cheater. And he arrested Bali Maharaj and tied him up. I mean, it's a whole story in and of itself. But anyway, when he arrested Bali Maharaj, the daughter, who had been thinking, what a beautiful little boy, the daughter thought, oh, all right, maybe I'll have this boy as my son. But if I do, I'll kill him. And then, in her next birth, she became Putana, this horrible demon, and she came to kill Krishna, but Krishna killed her. But the thing is, back in the previous life as that young girl, she had quite intense motherly feelings for the Lord. And Vamana, Krishna, they're the same person. They're not two people, just one person in two forms. So she had these motherly feelings. When she came to kill baby Krishna in Vrindavan, when she first saw him lying in the cradle, those motherly feelings were aroused again from the previous lifetime. And just momentarily, she felt, what a beautiful little child. But then again, after just a couple of seconds, that demoniac nature that I'm going to kill this child, it just kind of swept in again and just possessed her and took her over. And then she tried to kill Krishna. And Krishna killed her. But the thing is, devotees, that Krishna, why should we surrender to Krishna? Why should we become devotees of Krishna? We said, because Krishna is so merciful to his devotees. Now, Putana was not a devotee, but momentarily, briefly, here and there, she had some motherly type of attraction to Krishna, although on the whole she was extremely negative, but sort of like little flashes of motherly feelings. And Krishna is so kind that he accepted those motherly feelings and overlooked, just ignored, or just forgot about the demoniac nature. So just based on brief, very brief motherly feelings, just before she tried to kill him, then Krishna accepted her as a devotee. And Krishna sent her to the kingdom of God. And devotees, sometimes in a sort of tongue-in-cheek way, sometimes we say that if, or let us say when, you all go back to the kingdom of God, if, or let us say, be optimistic and say when, that you may roll up there and you may meet this one lady. And she'll say, oh, welcome to Goloka Vrindavan. Where are you from? And you'll say, yeah, I'm from Joburg. And she knows about Joburg. And she'll say, really? Okay, that's interesting. Well, you know who I was? I was Putana. Welcome to Goloka Vrindavan. And as I said, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's not also. It's also not. It's also something very real, because she's there, and you'll meet her. You'll definitely meet her. So therefore, when Jiva Goswami is talking about these different instances in which Lord Krishna is very merciful to these different people, but most of them are great devotees anyway. But one of them, the first one he mentions, is Putana, who, was not a devotee by any means to start off with. So there is a verse for each one of the 5 examples of Krishna's special mercy. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam. The one for Putana is as follows. Well, it's 3rd Canto, 2nd chapter, verse 23. And it goes, Aho Bhakiyam Stanakala Kutam Jighamsaya Payayad Apyasad Vi Le Begatim Datriuchitam Tatonyam Kam Vadayalum sharanam vrajema. So this verse is spoken actually by one of Krishna's very dear associates from Dwaraka. If you're a Gujarati, he was also a Gujarati. There you go. Good, you've got a good background. So here's the translation. Listen to this. Well, anyway, first, Uddhava spoke this verse almost immediately, just very shortly in a few days, following the departure of Lord Krishna from this world. Lord Krishna was here for about 125 years, and then he returned to the kingdom of God. Yes. So Uddhava was one of his very close associates in Dwaraka. And Dwaraka, that's where Krishna was living in the later part of the time that he was here. So, and Uddhava was like his personal assistant, you could say. He was basically with him practically 24/7. And so they're extremely close. So Uddhava, what he's saying here is, alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he, means Krishna. Now that Krishna's gone, how will I find someone who can look after me, who I can take shelter of? Someone who is as merciful than him, who granted the position of mother. Nanny is a type of, mother, motherly position. He granted her the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful, and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. So I think his point is very clear. Krishna's mercy in the situation to this sort of impossible, practically impossible person, it's very, very extreme mercy. And Uddhava is lamenting, where am I going to find someone who will take the place of Krishna in my life? I'm not going to be able to. And Srila Prabhupada gives a purport to this verse. I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read just the last little bit. Prabhupada says, Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putana because she pretended to be an affectionate mother. Like I said, she transformed herself into the form of a beautiful young girl and came as if she was going to breastfeed Krishna. Because, it used to be, not so much now, but it still happens in, more rural parts, more traditional parts of India, that when one of the village ladies gives birth to a child, and of course they breastfeed the child, even they breastfeed the child for some years, but also the other ladies, some of the other ladies also come and breastfeed that lady's child. Yeah, it's not just the mother. And the mother is, particularly traditionally, those mothers were not the types of mothers who they just can't wait to get back to work to earn money, because money is the honey. And the child is a bit of a, okay, I got to look after the child. Call Granny. Let Granny have a second motherhood. Let Granny look after the grandchildren. Give her a bit of excitement. Let me get back to work as soon as possible. No. So the village ladies, some of them would come and breastfeed the child. Not their child, but, it was like that. the family mood, the intimacy and closeness was like that. And, I knew one lady, I haven't seen her for years, but she was resident at our center, our temple in Canto Ridge, way back in the 80s. And she gave birth to a child, a young boy, and they were living there in the temple place, and she breastfed him until he was just about ready to go to school. I'm not kidding either. Yeah. So, yes, so Putana, she made this motherly gesture. So Prabhupada says, Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putana because she pretended to be an affectionate mother, allowing Krishna to suck her breast. The Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? So that's something you can think about, you can meditate on. And of course, an important point you can take from it is that if Lord Krishna accepted a person like Putana based on, this sort of negligible qualification, almost non-existent qualification, and just a vast amount of disqualification, if the Lord is so, his character, his personality, his nature is such that he's so kind, he'll accept a person like that, then how can there be any doubt that he will accept someone who is actually a sincere devotee, who is really trying to please the Lord on a daily basis and chanting the names of the Lord regularly on a daily basis? How can there be any doubt that such a person will get the great mercy of the Lord? So, I've got another 10 minutes. I want to just mention another sort of case or another situation, but it's very closely related. I mean, it is, in principle, it's closely related. This is about the case of a devotee, someone who is a devotee of the Lord, but at some point, somehow, the devotee gets into some spiritual difficulty. It happens to some. It happens that they start the practice, even they may practice for some period of time, even some years, but then somehow or other some old habit comes up, maybe in some bad association, and somehow without, not like deliberately like, I want to do something really rotten, but they do something which is really opposed to the principles of religion, or just opposed to the principles of civilized life. Like, fasten your seatbelt, some of you, like maybe smoking cigarettes. That's, my Lord. Drinking, mainstay, or, something related. You know what I mean? These sorts of things, they're so low, even the animals don't do them. I mean, the animals are pretty low, They really don't know what's going on. But they don't smoke. And even a lot of them are vegetarian for that matter. But sometimes it happens to a devotee that due to bad association or some old habits die hard, they say, the devotee just somehow does something they shouldn't do. Like sinful activity, actually. And for these types of activities, people get really bad karmic reactions. I mean, gosh, they just get terrible karmic reactions. Usually they come in the next lifetime for smoking, drinking, meat eating, and all these types of things. My gosh, such reactions. But Krishna says, and this is now Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 30, Apichet suduracharo, bhajate mam ananya bhak, sadur eva samantavya, samyag vya vasatohisa, which means, even if one commits the most abominable action, if he's engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he's properly situated in his determination, means his fundamental sort of orientation, but just momentarily there was some, serious deviation. So for such a person, Krishna says, the person should be considered saintly because their determination is right, even though they have done something wrong somehow or other, something for which someone would rarely get. Sometimes we say in regard to the sufferings of people in this life, sometimes we say they're getting the sauce when they get some sufferings. And if they really get some sufferings, like sort of mega sufferings, we sometimes say they're getting the hot chili sauce. But it can get really bad. I mean, it can get so bad you might be surprised how bad it can get. But if a devotee somehow, not like deliberately, like I want to get into this and then off they go and get into it, but momentarily, just temporarily, briefly, they get deviated into something that they really shouldn't do and they know they shouldn't do, but somehow they just become overwhelmed, become weak, and they do it. Something that they should even, in an extreme case, they'd go to hell for. Because Krishna says, the term he uses for that bad activity is sudur achar. Achar means activity. Dur achar means bad activity. Sudur achar means very bad activity. Extremely bad. One of our acharyas, Ramanujacharya actually, in his Bhagavad Gita translation and commentary, he says, he uses language which translates as this devotee does something exceedingly wicked, like maybe killing a person. I mean, believe it or not, such things have happened actually. Yeah. But Krishna says that person must be seen and treated as a sadhu, means a saintly person, because at least in their sort of foundational, fundamental determination, they're determined to be devotees and continue serving the Lord, and they really regret that unfortunate incident. So Krishna, for the devotees, even if a devotee does something like, something pretty bizarre, like really, not just smoking a cigarette, but something actually really bizarre, but then they become corrected and they remain focused or become again focused, and like that, Krishna saves them from the karmic reactions. For your average non-devotee, your average person in the street, no, they'll have to take the reactions, and it can really get bad. But for the devotee, Krishna overlooks their karma and wipes out their karma. So this is another type of mercy of the Lord for the devotees. Mercy from Lord Krishna. So today is Lord Krishna's birthday, Sri Krishna Janmastami, Mahotsava, great festival. Please try and remember these things, think of these things, and consider, if you're not already at least, I know so many of you are already practicing Krishna consciousness, but if you're not, get into it, take it up, get into it. And very quickly, you'll start feeling great internal benefit. Prabhupada would say that in Krishna consciousness, he used the term, the first installment of benefit is peace of mind. It's not the last one, finally, peace of mind. The first installment of the Lord's mercy is peace of mind. Even for someone who was in a very unpeaceful way of life before. So please consider these things. If you're not already practicing, take it up, get into it in practical ways. It's great you're here for the festival. That's really nice. But see about applying it on a regular basis. And if you're already practicing, get into it more. Why not? Go for it. Dive deep into the ocean of nectar. It's amazing. And the mercy of the Lord is just amazing. So there you go, devotees. The program will now continue. That's all from me for the time being. Hare Krishna. Sri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava Ke. Srila Prabhupada Ke. Hare Krishna.
Please bear with me. So a huge thank you to His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami for that special mercy on this auspicious day. So how do we say thank you? We can never get enough of saying the holy name, especially today. So let's express our appreciation on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me.